天候を満つるところに我はあり。黄泉の門開くところに何時や。行けよ、神の雷。それは、これで最後だ。インディグレーション。そんなバカな。
Yeah, they talk.
Tales of Phantasia is a JRPG that only came out in Japan for the Super Famicom in December of '95. So, what am I playing then? Well, it's a reproduction card actually. This repro card has a patch that allows me to play it in English, and it's actually a very good translation from what I can tell. I hope so too, buddy. I hope so too. Later on, the game was ported to the PlayStation, Game Boy Advance, PSP, and there's even an Android and iOS version, which makes this the most ported Tales game of them all. There's even an anime based on it as well, but here we're only gonna be looking at the Super Nintendo version. Our adventure begins with what seems to be an epic battle, with a lot on the line. Then, a spell is used where the bad guy is sent to be imprisoned, where a pendant is used to do so. 10 years passes, and now that same pendant is given to you on your 15th birthday. You go out to hunt with your friend, and... wait a minute, are those power cops? Is that the mom protecting her children? Then you kill her and let the cops there without a mom? Jeez, I'm starting to think that we might not be the good guys after all. By the way, that's a theme throughout the game. As I was saying, you find an old tree and you have a vision of it asking you to protect it. Suddenly, your village is attacked. Your parents are killed. Your friend's little sister is killed. Everyone in the village is killed. It's actually a very powerful scene, and it does give you a very nice motivation to first survive, and then to have revenge. So then you go to the nearest town, where your uncle lives, and he betrays you. Dick! Now you lose your pendant, and the guy who was captured at the beginning is now free. This guy is Daos. He's powerful, and you're not. This is when you discover that your parents were part on enslaving him in the first place. You are sent back in time 100 years to try and find a way to defeat Daos, and this is when your adventure begins. I rather like the story in this game. I mean, it's epic, it has humor, touching moments and love stories. It's a little cliche, but for '95 I think it works really well and it holds up even today. The pacing is a little off though.
There's gonna be long stretches of game where the story doesn't advance at all. But again, this is typical of JRPGs, especially of that time. The presentation is probably the high point of this game. The graphics are up there with the best the Super Nintendo could offer, and the art direction is just top notch. I love the chibi style used in the sprites. The backgrounds, vistas, effects. Mode 7 is used very well as well. It's just an amazing package that few could even come close to in the 16-bit era. The game was released late in the Super Famicom lifespan, and it utilized the new 48 megabit ROM card, the largest ROM size of any game released, only matched a year after by the same developer Wolf Team for the next game, Star Ocean. The team made the most out of this chip, and with a little tweaking of the Super Famicom SPC chip, they were able to do this.
この世に悪があるとすれば、それは人の心だ。
A full song during the opening? This was unheard of at the time. I mean, we already had CD-based games. Hell, the PlayStation was already released. But to hear this coming from a card-based game was just an amazing feat. There's even dialogue during battles and cutscenes. As you've been hearing during this video, the music in this game is great. The soundtrack is catchy, it pumps up, and it's sad when it needs to be. It's up there with the best. Probably not the same level of Secret of Mana or Final Fantasy VI, but then again, nothing really is. The sound effects are hit and miss. There are some great ones, but there are ones that really make your ears bleed. Oh! Come on, stop it! Overall, the presentation is outstanding. It's a delight for your ears and your eyes. Most RPGs have two ways to approach combat. Either turn-based, which involve you selecting your actions through menus, or action-based, which is just real-time combat, where buttons are dedicated to actions instead of menus. Tales of Phantasia falls in the action RPG category. But instead of a bird's-eye view, where you can move freely in an X and Y axis, you can only move in one plane. This allows for more button combinations. What do I mean about that? Well, your main character class, you can equip for him skills that you can activate during combat by pressing up and A, and depending on how close or how far away you are to an enemy, it will activate a short or a long action. You can also do this to either slice or stab, and depending on your sword, you can do more damage with the different attacks. But at the same time, this limits your way to dodge enemy attacks. This, combined with the fact that there's just no recovery time for you or your enemies, this can mean that you can go and have a very easy fight or a very frustrating one. Talking about class skills, you can get them in many different ways, but some skills require you to have 100% on another skill to be able to use it. The problem is that these skills can move as slow as 1% per one use. This means that you will have to do a particular skill 100 times before you can get 100%. This is just a way to extend gameplay for nothing really. Well, at least you're grinding levels, I suppose. You can have a party of up to 4 characters at any given time. You control the main character and the computer controls the rest. The computer does a decent enough job, but there will be many times where it does stupid shit, like using spells that heal opponents. Well, the good news is that you can and will have to micromanage everything. You can set what spells they can use, how aggressive they can be, and what's the position on battle. And furthermore, you can take control of each and every one of them and let them know exactly what you want them to do. But you have to be fast before the computer does it for you. Let me do it, let me do it, let me do it, let me do it. Fuck you. The dungeons are varied and have light puzzles to solve, but they're mostly about turning switches. There are some stand-ups though. There's one example of one dungeon where you need to change the song that it's playing in order to advance. But this brings a big problem with the game, and that's the lack of maps. I mean, there's an overworld map, but there's no maps for dungeons or towns. At least in towns there are signs for where the shops are, I guess. But still, the lack of maps really hurt the game. There are many dead ends, and combine this with the very high random battle occurrences, and it makes it so that you get lost. As a tip, try and use the holy bottles to reduce as much as possible the random battles, especially in the later stages. The game also suffers from the where the fuck do I go next syndrome. If you're not playing every day, you will come back to the game not knowing where to go or what to do next. There's no journal or anything to let you know what's next. There are many other things in the game that are just not explained. For instance, the simple short and long skills from class that I explained earlier, it took me half a game to be able to figure out how it worked. Before that I thought it was random. Nowhere is this explained. And if this was in the manual, then fuck me because I don't have it. Also, people keep telling me about button combinations. I try them and nothing happens, it just doesn't work. I go through the game, people keep telling me about these combinations, not knowing why are they telling me this. I eventually find out that you need to equip this very expensive item, and then you can use those combinations. But look at this! This is freaking 5 million! Even if I sell everything, I cannot even buy it. Mind you, this is close to the end of the game. And again, even if you can buy it, this means that you were able to get 5 million. To be able to get 5 million, it means that you're close to the end of the game, right? And if that happens, by that time, you already have all the skills. You don't need that. It's no point. So again, that's not explained. And if you have a walkthrough, you can get to that. But if you go through it without it, like I did, it's just, you're not gonna be able to. You need to research it before you understand it. And don't get me started with classes. What do they do? What are they for? How do I get different ones? I don't fucking know. The good thing is that at the end of the day, you don't need any of this to be able to go through the game. If you don't have it, no, there's no problem. You can go through it as I did. I just finished the game without any of this. And why the fuck are there platforms where only one character fits? You cannot walk through NPCs either. This means that you have to wait for them to move. So I'm going for... Okay. Move. 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 Fuck, there's nothing there. Again, the lack of maps. Fuck me. The game is not terribly long for a JRPG. If you go through it not doing anything but the main stuff, you can probably finish it in between 20 to 25 hours. And since there's no alternate endings and no Game Plus mode, you will not be missing much in terms of the ending. But the good thing is that there are several side quests and that they are very, very fun. They go from getting a couple to fall in love to a coliseum where you can only fight with your main character. The problem is that many of these are very easy to miss, and again, since there's no map or journal, if you're not the type of guy who needs to be talking to every single NPC and remembering everything that they said, you might be missing a lot of these side quests. There's even a complete town that you can miss. It's actually very easy to miss, and if you're not paying attention to everything that is being said, you will be missing stuff like this. All in all, the battles can be a lot of fun when everything's set correctly. And even though you will need to grind levels here and there to make your life easier, it's really not required, not that much. Unfortunately, the game does suffer from a lot of bad design choices. And this leads me to say that the gameplay is really not this game's strong point. Tales of Phantasia dared to do something different with its combat, and even though it doesn't really pay off, it paved the road for future installments. And you really gotta give it up to Wolf Team for pushing the Super Nintendo to its limits. If you like anime or JRPGs, you will really like this game. In a sea of amazing 16-bit RPGs, this one stands up from the moment you boot it up. I really don't think you will be disappointed if you play this game. So, give it a try and let me know in the comments down below if you liked it or not. What I will do, I will have a list from best to worst of a particular genre and era. A time score from Top Gear. Since this is the first one I review, then you Tales of Phantasia are my number one. Now, next time I review another 16-bit RPG, then I'll put it against it. And as we continue to review more and more, the board will just continue to grow. So, thanks for watching Okado's Retro Reviews, and hasta la próxima.